all of those communities get amplified along with them.
Podcasting is popular, but how do you get started? We'll show you what it takes.
Finally decided, let's do a virtual commemoration.
Floating lanterns are a symbol of remembrance and tolerance. See how you can craft your own. And as the pandemic continues, this is how some are helping people during tough times. These stories and more, next on CityStream. Hello, I'm Enrique Cerna, coming to you again from my living room as the COVID-19 pandemic enters its 6th month. While many businesses cautiously reopen, a large segment of society continues to play it safe. This special episode of CityStream explores things to do as we spend a lot more time at home. Do you have a story to tell or information you'd like to share? Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Well, it's a great activity as the COVID crisis keeps us homebound. Now, it may sound daunting, but as Brian Callanan tells us, he started a podcast a few months ago and discovered it wasn't as tough as he thought it would be.
I've been in TV news for more than 25 years. And it might appear that the fast pace of the work is the toughest part of the job.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, I'm your host, Brian Callanan, and welcome to City Inside Out Council Edition. But one of the biggest challenges about being a journalist these days is trying to reach out to new audiences. Basically, we're talking about making some changes to make some new connections and maybe opening some new doors. Welcome to the world of podcasting.
I started Seattle News, Views, and Brews, a coffee break podcast about local politics in January of 2020.
Yeah, because it's been such a political battle so far.
Yeah,
we need some info here.
That's right. That's exactly where we're going with it. So hopefully that will work out to the best.
My co-host, Kevin Schofield, is one of the smartest guys I know, an independent journalist not affiliated with the city, who writes Seattle City Council Insight.
The podcast for me is a chance to have some back and forth about it.
Kevin says writing his columns can feel like being in an echo chamber, but reaching out with a podcast provides a new interactive way to break down Seattle's many complex political stories.
We take these Gordian knots of big policy issues and find something that we can grab onto. And to me, it's been a great extension of what I do in writing.
I'm your host, Brian Callanan. I'm also a host on Seattle Channel.
I record the podcast on Zoom, then edit it together with sound bites and music on Audacity, the free open source audio app.
All the union representatives.
I learned how to do this stuff in college and on my first job in TV 25 years ago. But guess what?
Anyone with a phone, with a microphone, with a computer, they can make a podcast.
That's Ashley Smith, a full-time podcaster who has this advice if you're just starting out.
I think knowing why you want to make a podcast is crucial.
Is it for profit or fun? Will you have guests or not? And what do you want to talk about?
There's podcasts about anything from TV shows to gardening. There's even podcasts about podcasts.
And don't be scared about the tech. Ashley says with Anchor, you can record your podcast on your phone and then have it distributed to Spotify, Apple, and more. Getting a microphone and editing on Audacity is the next level up. But that's probably not the biggest challenge for your podcast.
Getting people to listen to it, it can be kind of hard.
Connecting with an audience is difficult for author Jeffrey Lee Cheatham II, too. Sometimes, even when he's meeting with his readers in person.
Every time I read to elementary school kids, the first thing they think is I'm a Seahawks player. And then when I sit down and pull out a colorful illustrated book, that's like, well, it's like I can see the mind trip that happens.
Jeffrey, interviewed here at the nonprofit Jack Straw Cultural Center for a writer's podcast, started writing 8 years ago. Now this self-taught DIY children's book author has published 4 books, and he's not looking back.
It makes me proud because I'm destigmatizing what Black men should be.
Jeffrey knows publicizing books from authors of color can be a challenge.
I was at high access to sports, so I was going the football player route.
That's why a podcast, a new way to reach out, is so critical.
It's very important when you're a DIY author or self-published author, you got to tap into those sources in order to get your work out there.
Jack Straw has a decades-long history of communicating with diverse voices, and Jeffrey is one of 12 authors selected for their writers program this year, with support from audio engineers like Ayesha Ubeatilaka.
When their voices are amplified, the voices of other people of color, other indigenous people, all of those communities get amplified along with them.
And now, Ayesha says, it's your chance. You don't need a recording studio to podcast. It's time to tell your story, too.
It's a very simple way to let yourself be heard. It's raising everyone up so that we can all sit at the same level, and that's the beauty of it.
So get started on podcasting and let your voice be your guide.
If you have something to say, say it. If you have a story to tell, tell it. And if you have people who want to hear your story, share it.
Thank you very much to our patrons, and thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Brian. A lot of good information there. I know firsthand the enjoyment of podcasting. I co-host the podcast Life on the Margins with Marcus Harrison Green of the South Seattle Emerald. We focus on issues of race, politics, and culture. Now, if you'd like to sample Brian's podcast, Seattle News, Views, and Brews, or mine, Life on the Margins, just go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher to check them out. Next on CityStream, how a homemade lantern is shining a light on injustice. That's next. This month marks a grim milestone. 75 years ago, atomic bombs decimated the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Each August, Green Lake glows with shimmering light from hundreds of floating lanterns, honoring the thousands of lives lost. That gathering was canceled this year, but everyone is encouraged to make their own lantern at home. And during this time of social upheaval, the anti-violence message those lanterns symbolize has never held more meaning. Producer Ian DeVere has the story.
The temperature at the center of the fireball was as hot as the surface of the sun. Within 9 seconds, 100,000 people were killed or doomed, and 100,000 more injured. Three days later, on August 9th, 1945, another atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki, Japan. In a single instant, 50,000 people died.
75 years ago, the United States became the first and so far only nation to drop a nuclear weapon on a city. Since we're the ones who started it, I think it's our responsibility to make sure that it's never repeated again, not by us, not by anyone else. Well, since about 89, I think, we've been doing it at Green Lake. We knew that we couldn't do it in person, and so we finally decided, let's do a virtual commemoration. People are making videos that are going to be posted on August 6th and on August 9th. Being the 75th anniversary makes it kind of special, but also the times we're living in, the collapse or actually withdrawal by the United States from several treaties. Our focus has expanded over the years to include not just nuclear weapons, but violence of any kind. The violence of nuclear war, the violence of all war, the violence of poverty, the violence of racism. It includes slavery, it includes incarceration of Japanese Americans, stealing of land from Native Americans. But we also want to join with others to say that Black Lives Matter. And then the capping thing every year is the floating of the paper lanterns, the Toro Nagashi. So in Japanese mythology, water is associated with life, candles are associated with spirits. So that's the window project where we've posted on our website and our Facebook page instructions and patterns for lanterns. Or you can just take the paper and write your own message. A lot of people will write a message for a loved one that's passed on, or someone, that they lost to violence. Then you can get one of those little electric candles and put it inside, and then it'll actually be like a little floating lantern. I'd rather do it in person, but if we can reach even more people than we normally would, then that's still a plus.
And while people build lanterns at home as a remembrance to the thousands that died, others are shining a light on the indignity and injustice many of our neighbors endure each day. I spoke to a Bellevue teacher and artist who used her skills to make a statement.
My name is Eileen Grandstrom, and by trade I'm a teacher. I'm an educator at a school in Bellevue. I'm also an artist, and I'm here today painting a mural for the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening. I wanted to contribute to this in some way, this issue that I care very passionately about, and I have the gift of being able to do art, and so I wanted to create these murals as a way to provoke thought. This is a very striking image and message because despite his hands being up and maybe him saying hands up, don't shoot, many people are still shot. And they're shot for no good reason, and they're shot just because they are perceived to be dangerous because they are Black. It's the least I can do. Also, as someone who's I'm Asian American, I'm Japanese American, and historically Asian people haven't always been the best allies with Black and brown people, and as an Asian American person, I want to be that ally, and that's important to me.
No, I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
No, we need to do something. It's crazy. You're good. I look good. I look all the news.
Thank you.
I'm encouraging people, get out of your circle and reach out some people that you don't know, the culture, whatever it is. Get into deeper understanding, empathy. If you walk in their shoes, then you can understand exactly why they're protesting.
I feel very proud in knowing that so many young people are involved in this movement. I feel so many things about it. Mostly really hopeful. I've been learning a lot about what it means to defund the police and like reallocate those funds and put them into community resources and social work and intervention teams. And I hope that this is a shift for a brand new way that our society can work. And I hope that Black people in this country, Black people in my life, Black people everywhere can feel like they're not alone and there's like substantial solidarity with them during this time.
Next on CityStream, for decades, she's handed out meals to those most in need. See why Maria LaMarca Anderson is so committed to this cause. Welcome back to a special edition of CityStream. We're looking at things people can do from home during the pandemic. Of course, helping neighbors in need is something that we can do anytime, but the need is especially great right now. The past few months, I've accompanied my friend Maria LaMarca Anderson as she delivers meals to the unsheltered. Each trip is memorable.
It's important to help people during the pandemic, and it's especially important to help the unsheltered during the pandemic. So Tuesdays is one of the days I deliver, and about midday I call Musang up on Beacon Hill to just remind them that I'm going to be there and can I please have 50 meals? I always feel bad asking for 50, right? But they never hesitate, right? There's always some delicious meal.
Maria's been incredible. I know that she's been delivering 2 days a week. She's been working with us and other folks that operate as community kitchens. And just seeing the stories and hearing the stories and families that call in and families that have been able to provide meals for their children. A lot of folks that would never have the resource for this are able to get fed, and that's important for us.
So here you go. It's a nice looking pasta. Thank you. You know, I asked for 50 meals and I can get rid of them all at the Seattle Center. It's kind of startling that I can find that many people in such a small area. But what I'm also finding more of is newly unsheltered people. I can tell because, after doing this for a while, I can tell that, their clothes are still clean, especially their jackets, their shoes don't look like they've got many miles on them. Their backpacks are still relatively clean. Yeah, seeing a lot more of that.
Do you have any lotion?
Lotion, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't do what I do without a village of people. I just bring the meals, I just bring the treats, the water. My friend Gina, oh my gosh, Gina Jansen, she has provided already 300 pairs of socks. It's like you'd think I was giving them a brick of gold because socks are that important to people who are spending their days on their feet. My friends John and Chris, a box of 240 masks. 240 masks arrived at my door. My great-nephews have made goodie bags. Actually, before pandemic, they would actually help me deliver.
So where do you find the fix places? Where do you usually go?
Right around here.
So it takes a lot longer now to deliver because I end up chatting with everyone, or at least those who seem like they want to be engaged. It's important to me to do that because sometimes I'm the only person they've talked to all day long, or maybe not since the last time I was there. And it's important to me that they have some sense of respect and dignity, because that's what we all want, right? We're all people. We all want the same thing. We haven't been a couple for more than 20 years now. And 6 years ago, he was diagnosed with very early onset Alzheimer's, and I've been caring for him ever since. Just to see how good he feels, and even if it's just in that moment, because he may not remember it the next moment, I'm going to keep bringing him along as long as I can, because he's still able to give, and he still feels that. We all do what we can. Yeah. Hashtag we all do what we can.
What can you do to help the unsheltered? Maria encourages people to find a shelter close to them and bring meals, beverages, treats, personal care kits, socks, and masks. Next on CityStream, a Seattle restaurant owner hopes to open doors to opportunity as he expands his business. Throughout this show, we've offered things you can do from home during the pandemic. Perhaps the most important might be caring for your physical and mental health. A new program, Washington Listens, does just that, providing help to those dealing with a variety of stresses related to COVID-19. Producer Randy Ng has more.
I think people need to be heard. I think people need someone to listen to them.
Hello, thank you for calling Washington Listens. My name is Jenny. How may I help you today?
Sometimes that's all it takes, is just listening and being there to absorb the feeling so it doesn't become so powerful. I think when it gets out and you're able to talk about it, the power is kind of taken away and it's not so massive in your head.
I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds like you're dealing with a lot.
Washington Listens is a Washington State program in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is a support line for anyone living in Washington. It's free and anonymous. Washington Listens is not a crisis line, and so we're not set up to deal with real severe issues related to substance use or mental health problems.
That allows people who need to reach out, who are having stresses related to COVID, to get support. Whether that's just talking to someone or whether that's getting connected to resources, we want to make sure that that's available. We expect to see pinnacles of suicide in September of this year, and it may continue on further depending on whether we have second or third waves. But we see, particularly on the substance use side, a number of things. People tend to use drugs to make themselves feel better, so they use in really good times and really bad times. And when you overlay those folks who may have lost their jobs, or maybe they're on disability and they're having to stay home and they can't get out, this feeling of negativity, of anxiety will drive more drinking, more drug use. So we try to be careful and conscious of people who are addressing those issues and try to be compassionate around, if they're relapsing, and how do we get them the best support possible. Calling and reaching out for help does not mean you're broken. We really have to move past that. All of us need support. It's helpful for you. Share it with those folks that you know who may be able to use it as well. The reality is that this is impacting you too. It's impacting everyone.
This is our first day together, so we're all brand new to this. So the needs of people who are calling become more obvious to us over time.
I know how devastating the worst of the worst can feel, and I think if I can make it, anyone can, and I can help.
Okay, are you ready to take this information down?
I think that's where the passion really comes from, is just feeling like I survived something.
We are here to help you, and you're not alone.
If I can help just one person or listen to make someone's day a little bit better, then I'm all for it. I'm happy to do that.
And if you need anything else, please give us a call back anytime. We're here to help. Thank you.
Again, if you're looking for support, call Washington Listens at the number at the bottom of the screen, 1-833-681-0211. Again, that number, 1-833-681-0211. We end this show with the story of one man's desire to better serve the Black community. His specialty, delicious food from the Caribbean. Trey Lamont, owner of the Jerk Shack restaurant in Belltown, is looking to expand his operation. But he wants to do much more than just open another eatery. He wants to improve lives. Producer Chris Barnes explains.
My name is Trey Lamont. I'm the chef and owner of Jerk Shack restaurant. We're here in downtown Seattle in Belltown area on 1st Avenue. The Jerk Shack started in 2017, and prior to that, I had a Caribbean food truck for 8 years. Jerk Shack is the only 100% Black-owned restaurant in downtown Seattle. I think the reason that we're the only 100% Black-owned restaurant is due to financing. If you stack up the reasons why it's hard for people of color to get financing, even with the same credit score as, their white counterparts, it's ridiculous. Our fundraiser is a land fund, which will help us purchase the land that we want to build on. And the model behind us purchasing that land is to give back to the community. We're in the Central District. I was born and raised here. I think that if I was able to bring the Jerk Shack here, I would be able to have great opportunity for the community, such as healthcare benefits, dental benefits, college tuition funds, and childcare stipends. Those are very important to our community and things that are definitely necessary. Pledging to raise $700,000, that won't guarantee us that we'll be able to purchase land because Seattle land is very, very expensive, but it will be a start. Dick's Drive-In has been a staple in Seattle ever since before I was born. Every time you go up to the window, there's a sign that says, oh, we pay this amount of money for base rate. There's a college tuition fund, and you get full benefits. Apply now. That's the kind of example that I want to set for my industry by following the example from Dick's. I really am looking to make a change in the Black and brown community because that's what I want to see, and it's important.
And that wraps up this episode of CityStream from my living room here at Casa Cerna. If you'd like to learn more about the great shows on the Seattle Channel, visit our website, seattle.gov, and click on Feature Shows. I'm Enrique Cerna. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, wear your mask, and take care of yourself. We'll see you next time.